Hold on. Okay, I have Ashley James on the show today to talk about how we can improve the aging process, how we can thrive as we age in a different way. Maybe our mindset, our way of living, our kind of, well, actually, I'm saying this today. It's Thursday, and I call it Thoughtful Thursday.
Thoughtful
So,
Thursday.
Thoughtful Thursday. So, Ashley's on the show to tell us her story, and you're up in Washington where I came from. We're just chatting before we hit record. I'm in North San Diego where you just happen to be,
Yeah.
and you're up where I used to be.
We're having a beautiful summer. I'm sorry for everyone in other parts of the world that aren't. It's our turn though. It's Washington's turn to have a really beautiful summer because we live through like 5 months of rain. I'm originally from Canada, a part of Canada that, gets 5 months of snow. And so I don't complain much about the rain because you can't shovel rain. So
Yeah.
wherever it is that you can always have an attitude that there's somewhere else that you would rather not be. So just be
Hmm.
grateful for where you are. And weather is such a good metaphor for life. If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes. Usually the weather changes. Tomorrow will
Yeah.
be a sunny day. And what's that song? The sun will
The
come
sun will
out
come out tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's such a great attitude to have for life. And remembering to ground in gratitude when we're kind of miserable or wanting to complain. Interesting
Yeah.
thought about complaining. I learned this from Landmark Education. Complaining is a form of domination. We like to get into that victim mode. We actually get juice from it when we start complaining. But the problem is it robs us of our vitality and of our connection and actually of being present to love. So when we
Yeah.
can snap out of it, we go, oh, I'm doing that thing where I complain and get into victim mode and kind of, you know, uh, start grumbling about stuff. If we can be focused on, well, what is it I am grateful for right now, or what's good about this moment, even if I don't like this situation, what's good about the situation, that I can start to see a new perspective. So
Mm.
that's my little rambling about weather, and don't let it get you down.
Go back to where are you from in Canada
Toronto.
originally?
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
That's where my
But
mom's from.
that's where a lot of people are from there. They're Canadians. That's my ass. And they don't,
Yes.
it seems like everyone I met over the years from Winnipeg
Moves,
moved.
leaves. Yes. Yeah.
Are
Well,
you,
there's enough mosquitoes there to pick you up and
yeah,
carry you away. So
I've heard that.
many people just get carried away and never come back.
Yeah, we moved when I was 4 years old to Vancouver, Canada, West
Hmm.
Van I lived in, and then we moved to Seattle when I was 13 years old.
Oh,
So we've been
nice.
longer in the US than Canada, but still Canadian.
Exactly. Well, if you can say house and about, then you're still
Yeah,
one of us.
exactly. It's too funny. Well, let's dive into kind of what your why is. What's your passion, purpose, your mission in life?
Yeah,
What are you working on?
absolutely. So I suffered from anxiety my entire childhood and I didn't even know I had it. It's kind of like a fish doesn't know they're in water. I didn't know any other way
Mhm.
until after my mom passed away. She actually was very athletic, took very good care of herself, and died at 55. And that was a big wake up call to me because she would, when she was stressed, when she was emotional, she would exercise, every day.
Mhm.
She'd 7 days a week. Now, exercise is healthy. And we were just talking about this before we hit record, is that when we exercise instead of face our emotions, right, we can over exercise. She took care of herself in that she was very strict with her diet, maybe too strict,
Yeah.
right? She was
Yeah.
she was a little bit she was very critical of herself.
Mhm.
And then she let a doctor fear her into getting on a new drug that had just come on the market. And this doctor said, if you don't, now my mom was incredibly healthy. And this doctor said, if you don't take this, and it was um, no, a synthetic hormone. If you
Mm.
don't take this, your hip will break and you will fall down and die. And so my mom, who was seeing naturopaths for many years and decided to see this MD, this medical doctor, because she was very famous in Canada. She still is. She's a sort of like Dr. Oz, Dr. Oz of
Mm.
Canada. And my mom got on the medication, and I was in the hospital for the last 2 weeks of my mom's life, taking care of her, when we had the radio running, and it was announced on the radio that that drug was taken off the market for causing too much cancer. The doctor who prescribed it, who was also taking the drug, she did get cancer, but she survived because she caught it early enough. And so my mom died at the hands of the medical doctors. Should not have gone down that route. And it was this fear that the doctor used that drove my mom to a new medication that then led to her death. And my dad died of a broken heart 6 years later. But I had a huge revelation around health and mental health and emotional health. And health is not just physical. We're emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and physical. Again, I didn't know I had anxiety my whole life, but after I lost my mom, I dove into personal growth and development because I wanted to find a way to grieve healthfully. And what I found was that in our modern society, we look, especially in America, right? We look to be excellent, right? Everyone wants to find, to be the best they can be. But when it comes to mental health, it's like you're either normal or abnormal, and there's no, well, let's get excellent about it. And that's kind of weird that we take a very different stance towards mental health. It's kind of like still hush hush. I think more recently it's getting more acceptable to see a therapist just because we can always be better, right? We can always grow and learn. But I was seeking many different therapies to find out how I could grieve in the healthiest way possible and come out the other side not completely damaged from losing my mom. It was devastating to lose her. And that's when I discovered how to turn anxiety off. And that was my first experience of not having anxiety. And all of a sudden it was like a fish out of water. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's water. And that it was a really big moment for me because I saw my entire life and I realized I saw my life through the lens of anxiety. So I learned how to turn it off. And this was back in 2005. And since then, I've been teaching people how to turn off anxiety. It's a 90-second technique. And I can teach this here today. And anytime you feel anxiety, you can turn it off. Now, that's the first step, is turning it off in the moment. And then there's techniques for rewiring your brain so that you don't automatically create an anxiety state. Anxiety is very different from any other emotion. You cannot feel anxiety about something that's happened in the past. So you can think about something that's happened in the past and what emotions can come up, like anger or sadness from the past, or joy, right? I thought, thinking of my vacation I just had, I can bring up all kinds of joy from all those memories. But if you had an event that you had anxiety around, once it is complete, you cannot bring up anxiety about the past. And that's because anxiety it's different from emotions. It's actually our experience of the stress response, because stress is not an emotion. It's an experience of our physiological shift from rest and digest into fight or flight. And the reason why it's important that we have the ability to feel anxiety and to recognize it is that once we shift into fight or flight, we lose the ability to go into that healing mode. The body actually shunts resources away from our core, away from digestion. You might remember feeling like you eat something, it just sits like a rock in your stomach, right? Or maybe you feel like you're going to throw up. You might get diarrhea or constipation, but your digestion just shuts down, and your stomach acid doesn't become healthy and strong. And so people get a lot of digestive upset if they're always in stress mode. You shunt blood away from your frontal cortex. So you don't actually think logically. You don't have access to your resources to think critically. And you often get tunnel vision, right? So we get stuck in this mode where we think we need this in order to survive. A lot of people say, well, this is how I stay motivated, or this is how I get projects done, right? And it couldn't be further from the truth. If you were in a calm, clear, focused state and had your full critical faculty, had your full ability to use your higher cognition, right? And that your digestion was strong and that your nervous system was at peace, you have the best creativity, the best ability to think logically and to problem solve. But we get caught up in this world where we become addicted to the feeling of cortisol, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what it is. That anxiety, that sensation of anxiety is actually the red light on the dashboard, letting us know that we're in stress response. But here's the thing: you and I could sit on my couch. I'm in a very safe neighborhood. Let's say the doors are locked, and we turn on a zombie movie. Right now, my husband, who does not like zombies, I was once playing a zombie movie, and he caught a zombie out of the corner of his eye, like jump out of the corner. He was like reading a book on the couch, and the 6'7" man, my husband, leapt off of the couch, like it just scared the bejesus out of him. And that just goes to show that we know the TV, for example, is not real. You and I could hook ourselves up to machines and monitor our blood pressure and our heart rate and our stress response while watching TV that we logically know is not real. And yet we can monitor us going into fight or flight while taking in media. And why is that? Because the unconscious mind, which is always listening to our thoughts, cannot tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real, and is always listening. And it's like a little child holding the light switch. Should I press it now? Should I press it now? How about now? How about now? How about now? How about now? And that's what your unconscious mind is doing. It's geared up to turn on the fight or flight, because that's how we survive. We run away from the bear. But here's the thing: in modern day, the bear is your thinking. The bear is what you turn on the TV, the media on your phone. The bear is the bills coming in. The bear is 500 bears a day that you're facing. And so we are just in a heightened state all the time of anxiety. We seldom get back into that rest and digest, where epigenetically your gene expressions go into that wonderful healing and repair mode. So stress lowers the amount of stem cells you make. Stress lowers your ability to digest and absorb and assimilate nutrition. That's why we have to start with our thinking, because yes, your environment on the outside makes a difference, but the biggest difference is our focus. And we don't even realize that we're constantly focusing on what we don't want to have happen. And when you focus on what you don't want to have happen, we think, well, it hasn't happened yet. I'm just imagining something bad so I can plan. And I just have to think about things happening. Like, what if we miss our flight? What if they lose our luggage? What if we, like, I'm just planning for the future. No, you are lamenting. You're not preparing. And when you do this little mental masturbation of negative thoughts, this parade of imaginary outcomes, you are triggering that stress response. And, maybe we're a little addicted to it, but that puts us in that irritability. We really lose love, connection, and vitality with our loved ones when we're kind of on edge and snapping at them because we're in stress mode, right? Now, if we actually were at war and running away from the bear as a family, no one cares that you're snapping at them. Like, we're all in this together to sort of survive. But you're fighting a mental war inside that no one can see. And it's like you're at war and everyone else around is peaceful. And they're all kind of like, what's up with mom? Like, what's up with dad? Why are they exploding at us? Right. And it really comes down to what we're focusing on. So I'll give you an example. When we focus on what we don't want to have happen, like, I could imagine something really bad, but realistic. Like, what if I'm going on a road trip soon? What if we get a flat tire and we're in the middle of nowhere because we're driving through a desert and I'm imagining something bad happening, right? Immediately, my stress response goes up. And if I think about it long enough, or I think about negative things long enough that could happen, realistically could happen, not zombies, but like realistically could happen, then I can start to feel anxiety. And a lot of us who feel anxiety don't slow down and go, well, what was I thinking about right before this all started? Because it seems like very normal thoughts to have, right? It seems very normal to think, well, see, I'm going on this trip and maybe this could go wrong and maybe that could go wrong. But what happens is the unconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real and does not have a concept of time. So your unconscious mind is eavesdropping and going, oh my gosh, this is actually happening right now. Quick, quick, hit the button. We need to go into stress mode. We have to survive this bear. Yeah. Right. And so our thoughts all day long are the ones triggering the stress response that then becomes physiological. Right. And then you have doctors saying, oh, it's just all in your head. Well, no, now you are actually experiencing physiological, you're physiologically, your heart is pounding out of your chest. Physiologically, you are experiencing this. This is real for you. But the trigger was here. Now, here's the thing. It's not just your thinking because, and I love this analogy. I have a naturopath that came on my show a few times and he shared this analogy of a rain barrel. So sometimes people have rain barrels right against the side of their house and they collect rainwater and use it for the garden. And imagine your rain barrel is your capacity to handle stress. Let's say some of that rain barrel is filled with, now, according to the body doesn't care if it's emotional stress, mental stress, physical stress, spiritual stress, energetic stress. It doesn't care that's environmental stress. Stress is stress. And it all goes into this big barrel. You can have stress from, you drank wine last night, your body actually, and we can hook you up to a machine easily to show this. Your heart rate variability becomes unhealthy for 24 hours after one glass of wine or one serving of any form of alcohol. And same with eating sugar, same with eating a donut, but drinking alcohol, we can track that even though we drink alcohol to relax, we're actually putting our body in a state of stress for an extended period of time. Drinking coffee, it feels good in the moment, but it does increase our ability to be in stress mode, right? So there's just certain things that we take in on a day-to-day basis that fill up that rain barrel a little bit. And then we have, let's say we eat conventionally grown instead of organic. You've got pesticides and heavy metals, maybe you have mold exposure. So that rain barrel is being filled up a little bit with other things, but then your thinking could go over the edge, right? So you want to look at all the areas of your life and how you can empty that wheelbarrow as much as you can or expand the wheelbarrow. There's certain herbs that actually, that expand the wheelbarrow for us. And there's certain substances that shrink the wheelbarrow. Cannabis actually shrinks the wheelbarrow. And that surprised me when I learned about this, that cannabis use over an extended period of time, because people will take cannabis for anxiety and it is doing you a disservice, just like drugs, just like pharmaceutical drugs do you a disservice. If you treat anxiety with pharmaceutical drugs, we're not getting to the root cause. We're not helping the body support the body's ability to heal itself. We're using a temporary Band-Aid solution, which again, I would rather someone be on a drug and be alive. But most people are prescribed drugs that don't support them in their long-term goals. And so we have to look at what is shrinking my wheelbarrow. Coffee shrinks it. Alcohol fills it, and cannabis shrinks it. So it shrinks our ability to handle major stressors when the rain barrel fills up. So if I am thinking about what I don't want to have happen, I'm actually seeing that in my mind and my body's reacting as if it's true. Every year I would slip on the ice and fall. You know what I'm talking about, being from Winnipeg.
Wow.
Somewhere around February, we'd get these ice storms in Ontario, and I would slip and fall, break my tailbone, and it would just be every February I'd like basically have to sit on a donut because it was so painful. And when I learned this whole system of thinking, I caught myself one February, and I can still clearly see it. It was ice was everywhere. Ice was even on the trees. It was majestic, and the entire city was a skating rink. And as I tried to walk to the car, I felt, now I used to be a figure skater, so I actually know how to balance on ice, but I still
True
managed to,
Canadian.
yeah, true Canadian, right? So my feet started to slip, and I heard, so the thing is, when you start doing this technique, you actually can slow down your thinking and you become aware of the thought that led you down the road to anxiety.
Mm.
And for the first time, I heard the thought I'd had my whole life, I don't want to slip. And I stopped right in my tracks. I stood there for like 5 minutes. I'm like, wait a second. I just said, I don't want to slip. What do you focus on? When I say I don't want to slip, what image did you just have in your mind? If I say to you, don't think of a red apple, what image did you have in your mind?
A red apple. Yeah.
Because saying you don't want something, saying a negation doesn't actually negate it. You're still imagine the subject or the object of the sentence, the focus of the sentence, which is someone slipping and falling. So I stood there and I thought to myself, because here's one of the exercises. If I don't want to slip, then what do I want? And that's a little weird. I had spent my whole life saying I don't want to slip. I want to walk safely to my car. I want to remain erect. I mean, it's not good. Your languaging is not going to sound pretty, right? At the beginning, you're just going to be like, well, what do I want? I'm so used to saying what I don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta focus on what you do want and do this exercise with yourself. And so I went, and then I focused on seeing myself getting to the car, walking there. And then I imagined like bear claws coming out of my feet, gripping the ice. And that for the first time in my life, I didn't slip that February. I walked to the car and I remained erect. And this is the power of your focus. When you focus on what you don't want to have happen, your unconscious mind believes it is actually happening right now. So there's a whole neuroscience behind this, which is really fascinating, but just take my word for it or go dive into doing the research. I'm in the middle of writing my second book on anxiety. I'm in the middle of redoing my anxiety course, and I explain this in much greater detail. But as of right now, just take this. Focus on what you want. Now, if you want, I can teach the how to turn off anxiety exercise.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So the best way to do it, excuse me, let me get some water. The best way to do it is if you yourself have something you're anxious about. Do you have anything coming up, Debbie, that you're anxious about?
Okay.
Okay, you have something. You don't, you can, you don't have to. Okay. So when you think about this, is there a specific date that's coming up, like a specific event?
I'll say next Friday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, a week ago.
Great. Okay.
Week ahead.
So for everyone listening, I want you to do this exercise with me. Now, you don't need to pick the biggest thing you're anxious about to learn the exercise. So just pick, it could be like, I have a dental appointment, or, you know, I have a date, or I have a test, or I have a review at work, like just something. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing. But it can. So I want you to take this thing, and it's best to learn this technique. It's best to have a specific event that has like a date. So you have a date, it's next Friday. When you think about this event coming up, and you think about it right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being minimal, 10 being the most, how much anxiety are you experiencing in your body right now?
Let's say 7.
Okay. So everyone just go ahead and check in with themselves and pick a number. It's important that you just pick a number as you feel. I want you to go ahead, Debbie, and close your eyes. And for those listening, if you're driving, please please pause or pull over.
Yeah.
Don't do this
Don't
while you're
drive with your
driving.
eyes closed.
Yeah. So Debbie, go ahead and everyone go ahead and close your eyes. And I'd like you to imagine that your life is like a line, a timeline. And I'd like you to float above that line. So this is just an active imagination. You're just imagining this. I'd like you to float 15 minutes past the successful completion of the event. Float down inside your body. Where's the anxiety?
Mm.
What number is your anxiety?
It was down to 2.
Good. Okay, you still have anxiety. This is good. So for some people, the anxiety is gone now. And if it's gone, go ahead, open your eyes. That's the exercise. If you have any anxiety, and for some people, it might have gotten worse, not all the time. Most of the time it goes down. But wherever your number is, there's a next step for this. So Debbie, the first thing I ask is, you went 15 minutes past the event, right? Did you imagine the successful completion? So 15 minutes after the successful completion.
Mm.
Sometimes people just imagine 15 minutes after it going horribly wrong, in which case your anxiety will not go down. So you have to, this is make believe. This is but here's the thing. Imagining something going bad is just as fictitious as imagining something going well. But we have neuroscience to back up that if you imagine something going well, you are far more likely to create a positive outcome and also navigate that situation with your full, critical thinking and full use of your cognition. So Debbie, did you imagine the 15 minutes after the successful completion or just the completion?
Successful completion.
Good. Okay, great. That was check 1. Check 2. So I'd like you to go ahead, close your eyes, go back to 15 minutes after the successful completion where your anxiety is at a 2, and ask yourself, what am I anxious of now?
Yeah. You want me to say?
You can share, sure.
Well, for me, it's I have an appointment next week I want it to be really successful because there's a part 2 of that to follow up to create a business relationship with this person. So there's that needs to go well. Then it's like, all right, what's next going to happen? So then it's programming my mind so it's a positive thought process of the next step.
I don't know if everyone heard what I heard, but you're still in the middle of it. So you imagine step 1 going well, but you still have, several more steps to say this is successful. So the reason why it went down from 7 to 2 is, okay, we did well for the first round, but we've got several more things, right? If we were to analyze and just break this down, we'd probably find out that 2 is coming from a little bit of thinking like, what if it doesn't work out, right? And what are all the ways it could go wrong?
Yeah, the negative thoughts take over.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. You can plan for things you think could happen, and then you need to imagine the successful completion, because holding in your mind this vision of it going poorly will set you on that path. In racing, we see this when cars are driving and they look at the audience, they'll steer towards the audience. It's your where you focus is the direction you'll go. So I said this is a 90-second exercise. It is when you do the exercise. Right now I'm teaching it, so it's a little bit longer. So let's take you now with your 2, and for everyone listening if they still have anxiety, I'd like you to go ahead, close your eyes, Debbie, close your eyes, everyone. And I'd like you to go past 15 minutes past the successful completion of the full event. So find a time in the future in which everything along this worked out. How would you know it's successful? What is the last thing you'd have to see to know it's successful? Imagine that. And I want to know, Debbie, honestly, where's your anxiety now on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10?
0, because then it turned out successful because I visualized the positive outcome I want to have happen.
So we did a 2-minute visualization. No, I mean, you were visualizing for like 30 seconds of these 2 minutes. I was doing a lot of talking, but in a very short time, we just turned anxiety off from 7 to 0. And MDs will prescribe drugs for this.
Mhm.
If every MD was equipped with this ability to teach you this exercise, and you might have to start out by doing this exercise 50 times a day, but the
Mhm.
more you do it, the more you rewire your brain.
Yeah. So would
Now,
this be neuroplasticity?
that absolutely, yes, you will rewire your brain.
Mhm.
Or I have some techniques that are on top of this that we do when we don't have anxiety, but the ultimate goal is to rewire the brain. So instead of anxiety, we have excitement. So excitement is the
Mhm.
opposite coin. Excitement is it's going to work out.
Mhm.
You're excited about your future. Anxiety is my future's not going to work out.
Yeah.
And it's like both of them are fictitious. What gives you better quality of life? What gives you
Mhm.
longevity? Like, why choose anxiety? It only tears your health down. But people
Mhm.
don't know they have a choice.
Yeah.
And here's the choice. Now, there's still some in the audience that are having anxiety because there's something called generalized anxiety. And so, what I'd like you to do for everyone that still has anxiety, for those who've been sitting here very patiently with me going, I don't really have an event, I just always experience it. I'd like you to go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that timeline, the line of your life, and I want you to float above it. And I'd like you to float 15 minutes past the very successful completion of your life. You die surrounded by several generations of friends and family that love you. You've completed everything you set out to complete in your life. And now you're in the great beyond. You're in heaven or wherever you believe you go. And now where's your anxiety? We cannot. This is what turns the generalized anxiety off. If you still have anxiety, ask yourself, do I imagine the successful completion? Because sometimes it's like, oh, I died in a car crash. Okay, well, that wasn't the successful completion. Like I died 120 years old, having, accrued wealth for my whole family and made a big difference in the world. And everyone is not, they're not crying, they're laughing because they're so happy we're so happy we have such completion and joy in our life, right? Like, so you just imagine the absolute best outcome and you're 15 minutes past that into the next phase of your existence and anxiety turns off. So
Mhm.
quick visualizations that are very specific, focusing on what you do want to have happen in your future turns anxiety off. Now, a lot of people say, well, I have to think about these negative things. We've talked about this, right? I have to think about all the possibilities. If you have anxiety, you are lamenting, you're not preparing. So being in the Pacific Northwest, we are constantly reminded that there's going to be some big earthquake one day, right? There are those who have anxiety around it because they're lamenting about it. It might not even happen in my lifetime, right? Like, knock on wood, might not happen. Preparing means you think about planning for it going well. Okay, a big earthquake happens, there's no buildings left. How do I help my family survive? I'm imagining successful survival. Well, we have water, we have food, we have a family plan. We have this, and you think about all the things you would need to have as success in those outcomes. I'm imagining ourselves surviving and thriving, and then I go get those things, right? We can't control everything in life, but if we're imagining stuff going wrong, we're turning on anxiety. And when we do that, like I said, you lose your critical thinking, you lose the your frontal lobe, and now you've lost your full ability to handle these situations, right? Like we go kind of revert back into the survival mode. And that is necessary for if you're like, for example, in a building, a 3-story building, it's on fire. I don't want you to be calm and be like, well, I'm going to choose the best window to jump out of. No, you're just, we just are impulsive in that moment. We just run and jump and get out of the burning building and we don't think about it. And that kind of behavior is good for those immediate survival modes. We would perish if we were calm, right? And just like
Mhm.
chill about it and then got really started to get critical thinking about it, right? So there's a reason why our critical thinking turns off in survival mode because we just have to react in order to survive. but reacting in your relationships, in your communication, at work, in your health, like that's not serving you. And that's why it's so important to learn how to turn this off and learn how to decrease the contents of your stress wheelbarrow by looking at every aspect of your life and anything that could increase stress, right? So that you have your body in that healing mode as often as possible.
You tie in heart rate variability testing with people to work on their biofeedback with breathing exercises to reduce anxiety.
Yeah, actually, so my first book I wrote, which is Addicted to Wellness, it's a amazing workbook. I mean, not to brag, but there's I'm proud of it, and it's a lot of fun. And in that we have 33 health challenges, and we map it out over 13 weeks. It says 12 weeks, but there's like a bonus week, and in there we do actually breathing is the very first week. And it's not just breathing, it's getting back inside your body week. So there's breathing exercises which are scientifically proven to increase heart rate variability. And there's also chewing your food, putting your fork down, breathing, chewing your food and not inhaling your food. And then an exercise for getting back inside your body, because that awareness to get back in will allow you to start to hear the language of your body. Your body communicates with you all the time. Its symptoms are a language. And if we can listen and we can tap in, then we can catch things in every day we're doing course correction. I was just reminded that think about airplanes traveling long distances, the flight to the moon and back. They were on course to go to the moon and back. They were on course only 2% of the time. 98% of the time they were doing course correction. So if we have that listen to our body, we can do course correction. What does my body need now? What does it need today? Because what it needs today might not be what it needed yesterday, right? You might need to stretch. You might need to swim instead of, or do, a stretching or yoga class instead of some heavy duty workout. You may need to get a few more hugs and cuddle, right? You may need some more fiber, some greens today, right? Like listen to your body and listen to what it's asking for. And you might be telling you like to go to bed early, right? Like to take care of it emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically. We have to be able to stop numbing ourselves out and get back inside our body and listen and be willing to face the emotions that come up when we finally do get back in our body. But yeah, the very first week in my book, we talk about those breathing exercises for increasing heart rate variability.
Yeah, I've been very fascinated as I coach clients and as a practitioner do functional lab testing and correlate the data of tracking their heart rate variability each day. And ideally, looking at their low frequency and high frequency ratio and looking at their microbiome, their gut health, and then the nutritional therapy, we look at signs and symptoms of what do they feel, what's going on. And it's very fascinating to me is, what you're saying is tying how they're all connected, our anxiety, our emotions, our negativity, looking at genetics, looking at gut health, looking at our lifestyle habits and how we respond to situations we're in. And just a simple thing as you're sharing, 90-second switch your mindset, but also doing some breath work with that too, and how that can really rewire everything and feel less anxiety in life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Um, Anxiety should be something like pain, like a headache, right? It should be like, it should shock you that you're having it and also notify you to make a change immediately. Like we should take it, like you should not be like okay with having a headache every day. Like it should be a once in a blue moon event that lets you know I'm off course. Oh, I need to drink water. Oh, I need to not eat that again. Oh, whatever it is. Oh, I need to go to the chiropractor. Like
Yeah.
whatever the flavor of headache, like your anxiety you should treat it like it is very weird to have it, and it's because your body's communicating. It's the red light on your dashboard. And
Mhm.
everyone that takes anxiety meds is putting a band-aid over, like putting a sticker over. Imagine if you drove a BMW and the red light engine light came on, or Porsche or some really expensive car. Like you're the your body is the most expensive, unique, like you only have one body you're living in, right? Like how else can I say this? This is like there's just one of a kind, right? One of a kind car, and the red light comes on the dashboard. And what do? Go to the doctor and he gives us a sticker and we put the sticker over. Oh, I can't see the red light. It doesn't exist. Like, come
Yeah.
on. It's our body saying, check engine, right? And so it's actually positive. It's a message from your unconscious mind to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want, and to also check the contents of that rain barrel to make sure that, like, hey, there's this added stress that I don't need that. I don't need those pesticides. I don't need that wine at night. Trade out that wine for something way healthier, some breathing exercises, right?
Yeah.
And
Walk
so maybe
outside.
maybe some dark chocolate. What I like is sugar free, like super duper, the darkest chocolate you can get with no sugar in it. And then I cut up a few, and you only need like 4 squares, but there's such great evidence for very dark chocolate, right? So if you can tolerate it, and maybe not at night because of the caffeine, cut up a date or 1 or 2 dates and eat the dark chocolate with the date. You could even dip it in some nut butter if you want.
Mhm.
But it is exquisite, right? So
Yeah.
trade out your sugar and your alcohol. There's other options that you can have that
Mhm.
are so healing. Like drink a sleepy time tea at
Mhm.
night and
Yeah.
maybe put some hibiscus in there for the flavonoids, right? And the
Mhm.
support for the heart health. Like there's you can trade out one for another. You could even make like hibiscus tea with like lemongrass and lemon balm, and there's a few other herbs you can make, and you could do a sun tea where you put
I
in like a
just did
quart
that.
jar or something. Nice.
Just put that on my Instagram this week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna have to go check it out. But I learned this from a
Yeah.
friend who she had really bad Lyme disease, and she overcame it using natural medicine, and she'd get these heart flutters. So she learned about these herbs and she'd make this sun tea. So she'd put a few scoops of this stuff in at night and it would soak in the jar overnight, and then she'd sip on it all day. And it tastes great. It kind of tastes like wine because of the flavonoids from the berries
Mhm.
and stuff that she
Mhm.
did, the dried herbs and berries she put in there.
Mhm.
And if she drank it every day, her heart was normal. She
Mhm.
didn't have, so it was antiviral, it was heart supportive, it was decreased inflammation. I thought that was so cool that you could trade out the if you drink the wine because you think it relaxes you, go find some herbs that are going to support you so much more, that will actually
Yeah,
relax you, right? So we
for
can make
sure.
these one for one trades.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's an important part. And I was going back to what you said earlier about anxiety and the band-aid effect and getting antidepressants from a doctor, for example, when you don't feel well. And it's interesting, I just have so many examples of clients that when I do their lab testing and work on their health investigation, how many people get given antibiotics because they go in and they have an infection or something, but it's, to me, it's related from this anxiety and stress, put down their immune system. And now you're getting these illnesses, and now you have antibiotics, and now you're going to have all the bacteria killed off, good and bad. So you're just in this hamster wheel of not connecting the dots and working on the whole person
Yep.
from the inside out. And just getting that band-aid is just like, wait, if we could just do this little mindset trick and start working on your breathing and looking at the external and internal stresses are
Mm-hmm.
accumulating. Instead, we're in this constant process of getting illness, treating it
Right.
with, not treating it with the root cause, and you're just going around and around in circles, not getting anywhere.
Exactly.
Hmm,
Exactly.
exhausting. It's like, why do we choose to live life that way? Why people don't think maybe outside the box that, okay, this
Mm,
isn't helping me get where I want to get. As I say,
well,
we want to thrive
right.
as we age and not struggle. And I think more root cause medicine, holistic approach is necessary, but it's not a magic pill that you actually have to put in the effort. You have to choose to do this 90-second exercise. You need to choose to do breath work, choose to make tea overnight instead of having a bottle of wine every night. I mean, it's the choices. And that's why I continue to talk on the show that is taking responsibility of your own health and your future self. Take ownership of it
Yes.
because you're the only one who's the CEO of your own body.
Right. And that's what it is it's trial and error and kind of getting excited about trying different things. Try one new thing at a time.
Mhm.
Little plug for my book. That's exactly the purpose of my book is that this is so I've been working with clients for many years and then I've done over 500 interviews with holistic health experts. And there's 33 health habits that lay down a foundation for you of solid health and you can experience them through the book. And so it's that experiment. Like you said, it's that experiment. Like, okay, tell yourself for 1 week, I'm going to not drink any alcohol just for 1 week. Because if you think to yourself,
Mhm.
I could never drink alcohol again, like oh, that doesn't work. We've discovered, right, in behavioral psychology, it doesn't work to do like this. I can never have this again. It's very difficult for people to make that switch. But if you said to yourself, I can commit to 7 days, right? So, or I
Yeah.
can commit to 3 days, or just choose your what you can commit to. And then also acknowledge like and think about what am I going to get out of this? Like I want to get all these positive things out of this because we have to have that why am I doing this, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes when we make these choices, like for some people cutting out alcohol, they end up now facing what they've been numbing out.
For
And
sure.
that's uncomfortable, right? But your goal, if your goal is like, I want to wake up in the morning feeling amazing and I want to get rid of this brain fog. Well,
Mhm.
7 days without alcohol, you might find that at the end of those 7 days, you're waking up with amazing energy and the brain fog's gone. And then uh, what am I doing instead? Right? Don't take away something without putting something back in. So what am I doing instead? Like we said, the tea, for example, herbal tea. There's all kinds of things that we can do that is a positive instead. But doing these challenges one at a time builds us up. And then what I like about my book is that you actually track those results. And it's done in a very fast way 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes in the evening. You track your success and you can go back and go, oh, look at this. I am getting
Mhm.
results. It's working.
Yeah.
And for some of the things, it won't be big, like it won't be a big deal for you. It's like, oh, I already do that, or hey, I didn't really notice a big difference, so I'm not going to continue with that one. But there's going to be a few health habits in there that are going to rock your world in a really positive way. And you're like, okay, this is my new normal, right? And it also trains you to be willing to try new things. Not every doctor, not every health coach, not every expert has all the answers. And there's a lot of conflicting information. I don't
Mhm.
believe in diet dogma, right?
Mhm.
Because food is medicine. The same medicine isn't going to be healthy for you at every phase in your life. And also for every person, right?
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
you want to use your food as medicine and adapt and try new things and see what resonates with you right now. That's why coming back into your body is so important and listening and then choosing to make one change at a time and see what works and what
Yeah.
doesn't work and just keep building from there. But get curious and get excited about
Yes, for
trying these
sure.
things. I have a feeling your listeners do get curious and excited because they're here listening.
Yeah, that's the first step is listening to a podcast and then working with people that coaches that can guide you down the right paths because you need a guide, not someone to direct you because it is that N=1 journey and course correct on the way that is not the one size fits all approach that doesn't quite work. So we need
Yeah.
to personalize it, the journey. So where can people find more and order your book and get more information on your programs?
So my podcast is called Learn True Health with Ashley James. My book is called Addicted to Wellness. They can go to Amazon and type in Addicted to Wellness by Ashley James, or they can go to learntruehealth.com/addicted to wellness. And yeah, I'd love to have them come on over and check out my podcast too.
Great. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes and hopefully you guys can try this exercise when you're not driving and sit there and relax, or maybe if it's being outside while you're doing it, getting some fresh air would be great. And I really believe in all this to help you transform from the inside out is looking at more the why and working on anxiety. So many athletes have that, and people that are aging and people with gut dysfunction. And it's really putting that all together. So I love what you're sharing, and what your mission is amazing. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.